Hey guys, welcome back to another One Candle Paranormal Case File. Here with your hosts,
Marcus D.
and Vic Whateley.
And everybody get ready to boldly go as we talk about the Black Knight satellite.
The story of the Black Knight satellite is the story of a strange dark object in polar rotation around Earth and the bizarre radio signals we've received from it. The first account of these strange radio signals comes to us from Nikola Tesla in 1899 and said so at a conference. He also believed that the noise seemed to be of a nature that it could not be naturally existing. The existence of this signal was later confirmed by ham radio operators in the 1920s. In 1954, U.S. newspapers began to report about an announcement by the U.S. Air Force. According to this announcement, there are two objects in rotation around the Earth, something that technology at the time supposedly could not achieve. We got our first confirmation of this in 1960, as Navy intelligence organizations began to report that there was a satellite up in orbit that wasn't ours and it wasn't the Russians. It was described as a large black object, tumbling through orbit. Many were quick to claim that this tumbling object was a piece of debris from Discovery 8, although Naval Intelligence later reported, although this object was somewhat similar to it, these objects could not be the same. In 1998, Endeavour astronauts took many amazing photographs of space. They were later posted on the NASA website, but some of these photos showed anomalies. Among them were photos of a strange black tumbling object moving through the atmosphere. These photos were quickly pulled from NASA's website. Fortunately, these photos later resurfaced on the internet. NASA's odd response and the bizarre history of these radio signals has led many ufologists to wonder, what is NASA trying to hide? And what could really be up there?
Okay, one of the first things we should probably be talking about is the famous Black Knight photograph. Well, this was taken by a NASA camera, and it sparked a lot of interest.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you guys research the Black Knight satellite, this is the photo that's going to come up time and time again in your guys' research. So I think it's really important that we would address what this photo has been alleged to have been by NASA.
Well, one of the main things that you hear about is the claim that it's a thermal blanket that was lost from one of the shuttles.
Yep, Endeavour specifically, while they were working on the International Space Station in the 90s.
There was a malfunction with one of the grasping hands, and in the process of resetting it, it lost several objects. Supposedly one of them was one of these thermal blankets.
And I think that would really suck if this thing that we think that is the Black Knight satellite is literally just space trash.
Which there is a great and vast amount of space debris out there. A lot more than a lot of people realize.
500,000 pieces of trash float around the Earth.
But fortunately, a lot of these pieces are tracked because we have to know where these are to successfully launch our ships.
And wouldn't it be kind of weird if you think about it, if aliens just happen to come along now? In our solar system, we have the trashiest looking house in the solar system. Yeah, think about it. That house in your neighborhood where all the trash is littered in their front yard where they won't pick it up. That's us in the solar system.
Do we think that this is a thermal blanket? Maybe some sort of space debris, but I'm not totally convinced that this is a thermal blanket. It seems to have a rigid structure. It seems to have a nodule on it. I don't know. What do you think?
Let's keep this in mind, that it wouldn't be hard for NASA to photograph a piece of debris floating in space and then try to pass it off to us saying, no. There's no alien satellite in space. No. There's no secret satellite monitoring you. No, this is just junk. We gotta understand that astronauts, cosmonauts, or really anybody that's been in space from any country, they're all government employees. They're all people that are having to act upon their own government's interests. So,
and beyond that, it's kind of hard to believe that they would let this image slip. It's not like this picture really popped up in the age of information.
Yeah, like when you actually watch NASA's feed, UFOs, when they actually go by, NASA just cuts it off. You know?
Like seriously, if you watch these feeds, you'll see an object float into the screen sometimes, stop and change direction. Their answer is really just to shut it off. And since we're readily receiving this information, well, it doesn't just go away. But this is back in an area where they can control the flow of information much more thoroughly. Whether or not this is an actual picture of the Black Knight satellite, well, that I don't know. But there are some amazing things about the satellite. Well, based on what we can understand about it, it seems to be in a polar orbit, traveling from the South Pole to the North Pole. traveling the world in that sort of position as the Earth spins, allowing it to scan the full surface of the Earth.
Yeah, when we actually have satellites in polar orbit now, the reason that we use them is for reconnaissance, for Earth mapping, and for weather patterns.
And one of the ways that we track this is because it releases a radio signal at certain intervals. And a lot of people claim you can actually track it across the night sky, appearing as a red haze.
And I think this is a part of the story about the Black Knight that so many people that they downplay when they're talking about that it was in a polar orbit, because allegedly whenever we first heard about a satellite in space and it going into this polar orbit, that was before we had the actual technology allegedly to be able to put something in that kind of orbit.
Some of the accounts claim that it's been in this sort of orbit since the 1930s. Other ones claim even earlier.
When Sputnik went into space in the 1950s, everybody was so fearful of it being this spy satellite. But in the actual orbit that Sputnik went in, it wasn't going in a direction that would make it very good to be an actual spy satellite. And that's what kind of makes the Black Knight satellite kind of unusual, because when it went up, that would be kind of like the best thing for it to be.
Yeah, the sort of pattern that it's taking, the only thing that makes sense is for it to be a spy satellite or something used for geo-mapping. Now, some people claim the satellite's been out there for 13,000 years. Well, I don't personally think it's likely to have been out there that long. But, the government often holds back secrets of technology from its own people. We could have had this technology further back than we actually believe we did. What do you think, Marcus?
Well, I think that there's evidence that the government has had technology that they don't really like to let us know what we have. Like, say, the ability to track us based off our phones, based on, the ability for the government to be able to shut down cars when we're in them and we don't even know about it. So there's precedent for it. Now, whether or not if this was a possibility back in the 1950s, yes and no. Yes and no. The 1950s and 60s, when it came to space technology, was a very public event. This was in the newspapers all the time, talking about these governments that were trying to push the envelope, trying to get to space first, trying to get to the moon first. So the development of this technology was very, very, very out in the limelight for the American people. So maybe it would kind of make it very hard for the government to kind of keep technology from the public about what they were capable of being able to do in space.
Well, that may have been true about the 1950s, but what about the 1930s? A lot of the credible information that we have on it comes from that period, and I find it hard-pressed that we could have put a satellite in orbit during that time period, secretively or otherwise. I just don't think we're there technologically.
This is a very, very difficult argument for the people that try to make the argument that the Black Knight satellite was some sort of like man-made government satellite. Because keep in mind that the Black Knight satellite's estimated weight is about 10 tons at its lightest. Sputnik, the very first satellite that, was publicly accepted satellite in space, was like 100-something pounds. So if this even was a spy satellite that was man-made, it'd be very difficult for this to be a man-made spy satellite.
And this sort of discussion of advanced technology versus UFOs, it's not exclusive to the discussion on the Black Knight. You see this pop up all the time when it comes to the Phoenix Lights, where people are discussing, is this clandestine technology being tested in America, or is this something extraterrestrial? There's a point where it's very hard to tell the difference.
That's really at the core, I think, of the Black Knight satellite discussion, is whether or not if we think that this is actually a man-made object or if it's an alien-made object.
And a lot of that comes down to where you place it on the timeline.
And at the end of the day, I'm going to make the argument that I think that this is a man-made object. When you're trying to make an estimation on how old something is, you typically have to have an understanding of about what it's composed of. And when you look at the Black Knight satellite research, there's this real lack of being able to identify what people think that it's composed of. That's why I think maybe the estimations on its weight, maybe the estimations on its age could be a little skewed. And if that's the case, then I think we honestly could be dealing with a man-made object. With the type of orbit that it's in, with the timeline about when people are seeing it. It's during a time rife within the Cold War era. And this is a time in which governments are wanting, even more than what they already do, to be able to spy on each other. I think this could be what the Black Knight satellite is. I think this could be an attempt by a government agency to be able to have a satellite used for surveillance in space. And this is going to be something that they're going to want to be public.
Now, I'm very skeptical of some of the spots on the timeline, particularly it being 13,000 years old. But I do think it's been around at least since the 1930s, based on some of the signals and research done in the time period. Well, I'm hard-pressed to say that we can put something even in space at that point, particularly something of this estimated size, generally based on how it orbits. Well, I'm not 100% convinced that it's extraterrestrial, but I do believe it was up there at the time, and I can't think of any man-made means of putting it up there. Am I saying 100% it's aliens? All I'm saying is, I think it's a thing. I think it was around in the 1930s, and I can't reasonably think of another means by which it was placed there. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to our One Candle Case file on the Black Knight satellite. I know that this is a fairly controversial one, and I hope you all weigh in the comments section.
I think this was really cool because this was a really cool topic that we could talk about, this argument of man-made versus alien-made. It's just a really cool topic in the paranormal that I think we got to highlight in this video.
And I know this was one of our longer videos, but we could have easily talked on and on this. This was us boiling down a lot of major points that we, in all honesty, didn't get to address in here.
We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the Black Knight satellite. Put it in the comments below. As you guys seen in our other videos, we will respond to comments that you guys put below. And if you really like the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
But as always,
keep believing.
because we'll keep listening.